dogs. Of course, we're going to go over some of those big matchups in the SEC, as well as some of those primetime slated games that maybe should be ranked versus ranked. We'll get into that as well. Of course, we got best bets for you at the end of the show. Let's get into it. Bet on it. College football week 3. Kelly Stewart here. You guys know me as Kelly in Vegas. Marco D'Angelo, contrary to what the comments say, does not get to dictate my outfits. We're going to cover them up today. You know why? Because we've been getting killed in college football, and something's got to change the mojo. We got VR fresh off a nice night there in the UFC. Comment section loving him as well there on the YouTube Shorts. So if you guys are watching on your phone, be sure to check out that feed. We're going to get right into it, guys, with some of these primetime games. We're going in TV time order, so I'm up first. 3:30 p.m. Eastern, Tennessee, 3.5-point underdog at Georgia, total 49.5. I'm just going to come out and say it. The spread is too low, okay? I get it. Austin Peay, not exactly a college football powerhouse, but we've seen Kirby Smart do this before. He just doesn't cover as a big favorite against inferior opponents. Marshall, come on, guys. I don't think we downgrade Georgia just yet because the dogs refuse to run up the score here. I made this game 6.5. This one opened 5.5, 4.5, now down to 3.5. I'm not going to get into the AP voters, but let's just say that maybe they put these two teams in the top 15 for the Mouse Network. I'm sorry, Vols. You guys just aren't in my top 25 power ratings. I think this is a buy low spot on the Bulldogs, who have won and covered 7 of the last 8 meetings. I apologize. They've won the last 8, 7-1 against the spread. I'm going with Georgia here. Marco D'Angelo, and I think you kind of said, hey, if this one hits 3, I'll be on Georgia as well. We'll get to Marco here in a minute, though. Ace, VR, 4:30 p.m. Eastern. A game that, boy, oh boy, are we excited to see. Saturday, Miami at home taking on USF. The favorite killer. They beat Boise State. They beat Florida last week. We'll get into that game here in a little bit. Miami, 17.5-point favorite, total 56.5.
I laid the 17 with Miami. I released that to my subscribers as well. I thought the line was a little bit short. Bottom line, Miami's a little bit higher ranked than they should be. They're not a top 5 team. That's the bottom line. I mean, having the impressive win against Notre Dame and then beating Bethune Cookman the way they did, impressive, but they're not a top 5 power rated team. Fortunately for them, though, USF is not nearly in the top 25. They're barely in the top 40 as far as power ratings go. Forget the rankings. The rankings are going to reflect a team's record, not a team's strength. So you have an undefeated record 5, 6, 7 weeks in. You're going to be in the top 25 for sure, whether it's warranted or not. And I think that's the case here with South Florida. They're coming off arguably their biggest win in school history, beating Florida for the first time, big brother in the state. Then what happens? They follow that up. I mean, the week prior, they beat a top 25 team. Then they beat Florida. They've never done either of those two things, beating a top 25 team in back-to-back weeks and beating Florida. And now you're facing a Miami team that's just running really well. And I just think they're just way too physical for South Florida. They're going to systematically break them down as the game goes on. As long as they don't make mistakes, that's the key. Limit the turnovers, limit the foolish mistakes, the penalties, and it shouldn't be a very difficult game for the Miami side. I mean, listen, this team is dominant at home. As long as they're able to slow down that dual threat quarterback, which I think they will by putting pressure, I think they're going to just start to break away with margin, especially in the second half. Again, South Florida has Miami's undivided attention, and that's a bad thing for them come Saturday. I don't think Miami's going to look past them, and this team shows up. They beat them by 4 touchdowns. I'll lay the points with Miami all day.
VR, you make a very good point. Last year, I said I like South Florida against this Miami team, and in the first half, they looked really good. I think if you like USF, which I know a lot of underdog bettors do, maybe look towards the first half I'm with you, VR. Unfortunately, I think Miami will pull away there in a second. VR, given those nice tidbits, Marco always bringing the snacks. 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Texas A&M versus Notre Dame. Notre Dame is now a 6.5-point favorite, 49.5. Marco, what little bites do you have here on this game?
Oh, Kelly, Texas A&M does look like a live dog, and that's why you're seeing some money come in on them. But I'm not going to go that way. I like Notre Dame, and here's one of the big things. They played 2 weeks ago. They had a tough loss, losing that game to Miami. I'm glad they had a week off to prepare for this game. How often do we say, when you play a big game that you can lose that same game twice, you come back and play the next week? So this is actually an advantage for Notre Dame. It also gives Marcus Freeman a chance to correct the things that were wrong the first week and have that extra week of practice and game plan. Notre Dame, if you look at the stats in that Miami game, whether you like Miami or not, with the schedule they played so far, they did beat Notre Dame, but the stats were dead even. It was the 2 turnovers by Notre Dame that was the difference in that game. I think they'll clean that up for this week. Excuse me. Then you look at Texas A&M at who they've played. They've played 2 cupcakes so far, and, they beat up on them. So what do you take away from that? One alarming thing I take away from that is in the Texas San Antonio game. And granted, that was a big brother versus little brother. And we always talk about, those little brother schools get up for it. They ran the football for 203 yards against Texas A&M. If they can do that, Notre Dame should be able to have success on the ground. And if they have success on the ground in this game, it's going to open up the passing game later. And Notre Dame will be able to hit some big plays. A lot of people are going to look at the revenge angle. How many times have I told you revenge is the most overused term in sports betting? Didn't end their season last year for Texas A&M. It was the first week of the season, if you remember when they played. So I'm not worried about the revenge factor at all with this one. Notre Dame last year dominated on the ground, and I believe they'll be able to do that again. And Texas A&M, when they're away from College Station, they were 2-3 straight up last year on the road. They struggle against the spread, whether it's a road game or a neutral site. They're just 3-9 against the spread their last 12 away from College Station. Give me Notre Dame. I got them 31-20.
Well, thank you to Marco there. I saw that in the spreadsheet early on. I had A&M on my long list, but I think you're right. This is a good buy low spot here on the Irish. We're going to move right along. I've already got it written down. I hope you guys have your pen and pad ready because VR Steam Report is coming in hot.
Yeah, we're ready to go. Again, another good week for the wise guys in college football. 3 straight winning weeks. See if it could continue. Here's what they jumped on already this week. Thursday night game, under 54.5, 53.5, 52.5, NC State, Wake Forest. Move on to Friday's primetime action. Over 43 and 44, Colorado, Houston. Kansas State, multiple accounts, multiple groups at different numbers from +1 all the way to -1.5. They love the Kansas State side. And finally, laying the 15 with UCLA. That's opposite the public. I'm already starting to see some recreational bettors opposite UCLA on Friday night. Let's move on to Saturday. Northwestern, game 118, plus the 28.5, 133. Pitt, -5.5, -6. 135, Washington State, plus the 6.5. 153, Florida Atlantic, plus 3.5 and 3. 155, over 52.5 to 54.5. App State, Southern Miss. 183, Duke, plus 3 and plus 2. Went through that key number. And finally, 195, Minnesota, -1, -1.5. Minnesota money line as well. So early so far this week. Still got a couple of days to go. But that's some of the early steam for Saturday's action.
All right, we got some barking dogs for you guys. Up next is the Deli Open and, of course, some best bets. Head over to oddslogic.com. You guys can get a 7-week free trial using ACE's promo code oddslogic.com/ACE. Marco, here was a team that I looked at. I text our good friend John Murray there over at the Westgate Superbook, and I said, talk me off of West Virginia. And he said, You're a better woman than me if you can bet that team. Last week, a lot of people said Ohio was the look-ahead spot here before Pitt, and they were right. Got to cash that +4. I had 0 money line dollars, but I appreciate the nod there. Talk to me why you're looking at the Mountaineers here. I know this is a old school rivalry that has been revitalized in your backyard.
And it is called the backyard brawl, and it's called that for a reason. These two teams don't like each other. And Kelly, yes, I was one of those teams, guys, that was on Ohio U last week. I also was on Central Michigan for the same spot for those two teams that Pitt and West Virginia looking ahead to this week. West Virginia did go down. Pitt got the cover. Well, that's another story for how they got that one on Saturday. But looking at this one, and I just got done telling you in the last one where I don't look at, revenge. It's an overused thing. Well, I said there's certain times that revenge is a factor in my playbook. The top one is if it's ended your season. This is not that case. The second one, though, is when it's a rivalry. And this is a big rivalry between Pitt and West Virginia. They renewed this rivalry. This will be the 4th straight year that they played this rivalry since it was suspended. As you know, these two teams went different ways with conference affiliations. However, this will be the final one until I think 2029. So West Virginia wants to even the score from last year. Trust me. They had a big lead in that game last year against Pitt, and they dominated time of possession against Pitt last year, 36 minutes to 24 minutes. And yet Pitt was able to come back. Eli Holstein with that big comeback win at Pittsburgh. Now it's at West Virginia. I've got to look to the dog in this rivalry. These games have all been tight. The last 8 meetings between these two teams, 6 of the 8 were decided by 7 points or less. And I know you're going to look at that and people are going to just have the knee-jerk reaction. West Virginia lost to a MAC school last week. Pitt destroyed a MAC school last week. Pitt's win was not as big as it was. They punched the last touchdown in with under a minute to play in that game when they were up 21 to make it a 28-point win. And they threw the football on that final drive 4 times up 21 points. So I think it's time for a little reverse karma to come back this week against head coach Pat Narduzzi. I'm going with West Virginia. I think this is going to be a dogfight down to the final possession. Let's call it in what should be a high-scoring game, 31-30, West Virginia. And hopefully our buddy John Murray will be happy with that result.
I might have to join you, Marco. God, this team is just so frustrating, and the quarterback play is so abysmal. VR, a game that I had on my long list, but truthfully, I know nothing about Delaware. I know nothing about this team, but I do know that I had UConn last week, and I still don't know how I lost that football game. Tell me why you think they're going to lose that Syracuse game twice.
Well, that was a tough loss for them in overtime, and now you got to go play a Delaware team, which can't be too motivated for. With that said, the path to victory for Delaware is obvious. Throw the football. That's Syracuse's weakness. Unfortunately for Delaware, that's where they're strongest. If you look, the yards pass differential for them is positive compared to negative for UConn. And with UConn, they're going to have their most success running the football. So as long as the Delaware is able to sustain some drives, not give UConn that short field, this is a game they could keep it within 2 scores for sure. Again, as long as they stay consistent on offense, those drives, they can't have those quick 3 and outs. They have to have rhythm. That's the key because they are going to depend on their passing game. So as long as they stick to the fundamentals and let Minchucci, however you say that quarterback's last name, win or lose the game for them, they're going to be just fine. Again, I thought they played well against Colorado, as good as you could play, having to go to Colorado, not an easy place to go and play. And because they weren't able to put up a lot of points, I think we're getting more here than we should. Add in home field advantage and defense that didn't look all that bad. I think they do hold it close. Give me Delaware, take the 10 points, small sprinkle there. So far, the dog bets are 2-0. We hit a plus 400 dog, a plus, what was it last week? Plus one, it was a small dog. This one's a little bigger, but I think the +10 we're safe.
I would love to hit an outright underdog just once. Okay, I'm done complaining. I am going to complain about this though. I've got the odds logic screen up, and let's see. This game's already down to 4.5. Vanderbilt was my 5.5-point barking dog, now down to 4.5. So somebody agrees with me. Look, South Carolina is in a 16-game streak, right? 16 straight they've won in this series. So sit here and say, oh, Vanderbilt on the road catching less than a touchdown. Well, it's really fishy. And I know the Gamecocks are really excited. Lenora Sellers, give them the Heisman. But I think we need to back it up here. I have not been impressed with South Carolina's offense. They've scored 17 points the last 2 games. And, in that loss to Illinois in the bowl game as well. They needed 2 touchdowns on special teams and 1 touchdown on defense to get past South Carolina State last week. And, a punt return to get the cover versus Virginia Tech and Atlanta. I think we need to pump the brakes on the Gamecocks here. I think Vanderbilt has had this game circled. Sure, South Carolina's covered 6 of the last 7. I think Vanderbilt gets one back here. Give me Vanderbilt plus 4.5. Give me Vanderbilt on the money line. You guys have not checked out our friends over at the Gold Sheet, wt.buzz/GTS. wt.buzz/GTS. Gold Sheet's top football selections went 7-1 this past weekend on Wager Talk. And truthfully, it could have been 8-0 if that Ravens team kept a 15-point lead. But the Gold Sheet prides itself on being one of the first football newsletters to market each week. They give analysis on NFL and, of course, college football. And then they update it throughout the week. Once the injury news is widely available, the weather forecasts are set. Gold Sheet, head over to wagertalk.com to get their premium selections. Speaking of premium, Marco's Deli has been awesome. You guys have missed it. Marco puts out a Deli video of teams that didn't make bet on it, but they are still sandwich worthy. 4-1 last week, and Duke looked good there in the first half, Marco, and well, that was about all she wrote. What can people expect from you seeing this every single week besides here on Bet On It?
Yeah, Kelly, we do both the NFL and college. So obviously last week we only had the one play in the NFL because it was week 1. Not many sandwich spots to look at or trap games. But I break these games down for you. The video generally is up late on Thursday or early Friday. And I always tell people, I can give you a winner and I can make you a unit. But if I give you an angle or something and I take you off of the loser that you had, I actually did better for you because I saved you 1.1 units with the juice. So it's a very informative video. We pound all of the games, in a quick fashion, run it off, in 10 to 12 minute show, and you'll get anywhere from 5 to 7 free plays each week from me. So check that out on the Wager Talk TV channel.
Marco,
Deli's open this week.
I know the Deli's open this week, and I totally screwed up. I want to go back to barking dogs because you just mentioned actionable info, and you text Ralph before the show. Our good friend Ralph, he does a TNA segment here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel as well. Can you please tell me what you called and asked him about the Delaware plus 10 side?
Yeah. Yes, Kelly, we're all in agreement on Delaware in this one. And I always told you guys about the angle of lose the same game twice. Well, where that really comes into play is teams that are coming off an overtime loss. Last season, if you're a favorite the following week after you lost in overtime, those teams went just 2-7 against the spread. It's the epitome of lose the same game twice. So just add that to VR's already on Delaware. You already like Delaware. I had Delaware on the trap games spot, and you'll probably see Delaware on the Deli, Marco's Deli on Friday as well. So give you the triple endorsement on Deli.
Love
on
it.
Delaware from the Deli.
There you go, Delaware from the Deli. Let's get into this week's Deli play. As you mentioned, they have been doing so well. You got a big old fat sandwich for us this week. They're in Denton, Texas.
Yeah, I'm going to look at this one, and I think a lot of people are going to like the dog in this one, and why not? We have two teams that are 2-0 doing battle here, but the knee-jerk reaction is going to be whenever you see North Texas and Washington State, Even though Washington State, was one of those teams that got left behind in the Pac-12, it's still a much bigger name than North Texas. So you're looking at these two teams and you're getting the points with Washington State. Yeah, you're going to grab them. And they're just coming off beating San Diego State 36-13. That was a popular play last week, San Diego State. A lot of people were on them for what, different reasons. I can tell you the San Diego State team this year is not the San Diego State team that we have seen in the past. They're down, and Washington State took advantage of them in that game and rolled, but they were at home. Now you've got North Texas here. They went on the road and barely escaped winning. They beat Western Michigan 33-30 as a 12.5-point favorite. You've heard me talk many times. I love taking big favorites that had a scare the week before. You're going to get a focused effort from them. Gives the coach, firepower, to light that fire under them, work them hard in practice. And I got to figure that when they went into that game, they might have been feeling just a little fat and sassy because the week before that Western Michigan game, they played at home. They played a little brother in the state. Normally, North Texas is the little brother in these in-state matchups, but they played Lamar, and they beat the crap out of them, 51-0. I think they got caught looking ahead to this one. Switch it to this week. Who's the team that's going to be feeling fat and sassy and might get caught looking ahead? Well, it's Washington State. They come off that game that I told you last week where they beat San Diego State. But, oh boy, look at the schedule. Who do they have on deck? Yeah, one of the teams that left them behind in the Pac-12. And, it's their big brother of the state. They play Washington next week. That was always the last game of the season, the Apple Cup every year. They're going to be looking ahead to that one. It's a horrible scheduling spot for Washington State to go to North Texas this week. I am going to go with North Texas in this one. I'm going to lay the points. Washington State held their first two opponents to 10 and 13 points. But again, this is the best offense they've seen so far. Look for North Texas to roll 38-23.
All right, guys, it's time to get into those best bets. We're going to let VR go first. VR, before you get into it, please let everybody know what you've got going on at wagertalk.com.
Yeah, big weekend for me, especially in football. And we got combat sports as well. Here's what's up. I have the Saturday UFC Notre packaged with the Canelo Alvarez and Crawford fight. So that's a combat sports package that's up for Saturday. It'll have all the UFC and the Canelo and Crawford fight. I have Saturday's college football pass up with a 5% big move in there. And then I have Sunday's NFL package as well. Currently number one in college football 2025, number one combined college football NFL 2025. And I thought this was going to be one of the best seasons I've had in football. So far, so good. Jump on board. Steam Room Sunday. We had 5 teaser bets on Sunday. 4 of those cashed for us. We'll have some more this Sunday before kickoff. So join us. It'll be good. Good times. Good times. Now for my best bet. This is going to be scary for bettors, but I got to fade Texas Tech here because they're just moving up too quickly as far as the rankings go, and it's just not warranted. They're not a top 25 team. I think when the season ends, that will come to fruition. So far, they've just been dominant against bad teams, averaging 60-plus points, putting up 600 yards of offense. And I get it. Oregon State's not a world beater by any stretch, but they're going to put up more resistance than Texas Tech has faced to date. And here's another spot where they just can't make those mistakes. More importantly, Oregon State, they have the offense to sustain some drives. And if they're able to sustain some drives, keep Texas Tech's offense on the sidelines, it's very covered. They could cover this 24. I thought that was a little bit too high. The total I also thought was high as well, but it seems like the market's disagreeing with me. I thought 61 was just too high of a number. And I thought it was based more on recency bias than anything else. So with that said, as long as Oregon State's able to put up points like they've showed so far this year with their offense, where they're averaging around 20-plus points a game, 400-plus yards overall, and they got a good, really good passing game, I just think this is a spot where The defense needs to show up a little bit. The back door will be open. And I like Oregon State to get in there and get that cover at plus 23.5, plus 24.
Lots of points there in Lubbock, Texas. Marco D'Angelo, your best bet for college football week 3. But before you get into it, tell me what specials you're running over at wagertalk.com.
Well, Kelly, we've got a special going site-wide this weekend. It's a $49 weekend warrior for football. And guys, you can pick your favorite capper, get all of his plays for Saturday and Sunday, $49. I've got a 5% going this weekend. It's going to be the first 5% of the season. As you know, we don't release a lot of them. 31-13 on our 5% plays over the last 19 months. So be sure to check out that weekend warrior package. Also, this week, college football, this is the time of the year. I always tell you, the further we get along into the season, the stronger my selections become because I got stuff to work with. And I think there's going to be an overreaction, and we're getting a ton of line value in this game. And I'm looking at Liberty minus 6.5. This thing to me should be closer to 10 than just under the touchdown. It'll probably go to 7 by the weekend. So go ahead and get down on this one now. Liberty's coming off a loss to Jacksonville State, and people are going to look and say, hey, they lost to Jacksonville State 34-24. They're going to think this team's not that good. I can tell you they beat themselves in that game. They had over 500 yards of offense, 534 to 395 to be exact. 2 turnovers cost them in that one. Now, the one problem that Liberty has shown so far is the ability to stop the run. That's not going to be a problem against Bowling Green. In the first 2 games of the season, Bowling Green has a grand total of 256 yards on the ground in 2 games. That was with 77 carries. That's just 3.32 yards per play. And one of those 2 opponents was Lafayette. When they take a look at this Liberty offense, which is a balanced offense, you hear me talk about 200 club members all the time. They just missed being that. They're 197 on the ground, 266 through the air. That balanced attack is going to have a field day against this Bowling Green team. And let's also look at the spot for Bowling Green. This is a team that's coming off an in-state rivalry game last week against Cincinnati. Those 2 schools only 100 some miles apart, Cincinnati being one of those big brother schools. That was a big game for them. And then look at who they have on deck. They've got to go to Louisville. Horrible spot. I love the bad spot for Bowling Green. The pissed off team that I'm going to get with Louisville or with Liberty for coming off an upset loss on the road. This is just a perfect storm for me. Take advantage of Liberty. This is one of those buy low, sell high situations, and I'm buying low on Liberty. Take them minus the 6.5. I've got them winning this one 34-17.
Woo! I'm just waiting for the comment section because this is going to be gross. And you guys can just go ahead and tell me now how much you hate me. And I kind of hate myself for this. I do. I gave out Florida as a double-digit favorite last week. We got the best of the number by 1.5 points, and they lost outright at home in the Swamp. I tweeted, Billy Napier, I'm done with you. I have seen enough. Except I had this game circled for my 3-team moneyline parlay all the way back in July. Yes, I go through the schedules early. Yes, I still like Florida here. I get it. Go ahead. Just say whatever you want to say. But you guys know as well as anyone, last week's result was downright embarrassing, not only for myself, but for the Florida Gators. And this is a team that possesses all of the talent in the world. Now, here's my question. How are they going to respond getting punched in the mouth by USF? Were they looking ahead to this LSU team? Quite possibly. How good is this LSU team? Lots of chatter, lots of love to start the season. Garrett Nussmeier getting lots of Heisman chatter. I don't know. Did you guys watch that Clemson game? I was with Marco. I took the +5 when it hit. Wasn't that impressive of a win after we watched Clemson struggle for 3 quarters versus Troy. Look, I'm going to say it. Give me the better defense plus the points. Florida +7.5 is my best bet for this week. And yeah, I'm going to put in my 3-team moneyline parlay. I think they can go in and get the win there in Death Valley. Let me have it. I deserve it. I deserve all the hates in the comment for wearing a turtleneck and giving out the Florida Gators as my best bet for the second week in a row. All right, bring it on. Bring it on. All right, let's bring back in Marco D'Angelo, NVR. You guys are awesome. Thank you for talking me off of some of these ugly square underdogs and giving us some really good information there on the ones that are barking. You guys can check us out on the NFL edition of Bet On It. We'll see you guys here shortly. Put up that recap graphic for us, Dan. Everybody's been asking for it back. It is back, even for you that cheat and scroll all the way to the end. The least you can do is give us a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of Bet On It. If you're looking for Ralph's TNA, you can get it right here. Standalone segment on the Wager Talk YouTube channel every single week. And of course, here is your NFL edition of Bet On It.